The film is very specifically, turns very specifically about Truman Capote, the period that he becomes interested in cold blood, the whole process of In Cold Blood, and the aftermath of In Cold Blood, which is, I guess, a crucial segment in Truman Capote's life, but just a segment. How did the decision come about to deal with that specific period?
I think that's something Danny and I could both speak to. I think it's the time of his life when Truman Capote, who he was, I think, became realized. It's where he found what he was always looking for. It's where he got what he was always hoping for, and it's where he, suffered the consequence of getting it. So,
I think it's absolutely right, and we used Gerald Clark's biography, Capote, a lot in the writing of the script, and he was extremely helpful in the shaping of the movie. There are a couple chapters that are devoted to this part in his life, and he points to it as the pivot on which his life turned, that it was, as Bennett said, the moment where he sort of got everything he ever wanted, and it was the beginning, as Gerald Clark says, of his long demise, which was tragic, and I think somewhat as a result of what he felt he had done to get what he had wanted with regarding Perry Smith,
which I think might have been the central theme of what interested Capote. When he discovered the story, he was working on Answered Prayers, which was, I guess, meant to be his Proustian effort, and a sort of some kind of meditation on the notion that those who get everything that they want in life invariably end up the most miserable. And as he's writing this thing, he discovers this story, and he himself falls into track with the kind of characters that he was attempting to describe.
When I saw the film yesterday, I was torn between two subtitles. One would be a story of greed, and the other one would be Capote, a love story, except I wasn't sure whether it was a love story between Truman Capote and Perry Smith, or between Truman and Capote. Am I wrong? Am I right?
You're right.
Thank you.
No, I think you bring up the salient point. I mean, I think that and Phil can talk to this as well, as all of you have seen the movie, know how beautifully he plays the part. That there are sort of dueling ambitions in terms of his relationship with Perry. That there is a genuine, and I think this comes across incredibly in Phil's performance, is a genuine caring and love, possibly, between him and Perry, but there's also a mercenary quality to that relationship, and he knows what he has. I mean, he says at one point that Perry's a gold mine, and I think he did also feel about him in that way. But Phil can speak to this.
It's multifaceted. It's just sometimes it's hard to talk about it as it was to do it, and that's why it was worth making it, if that makes sense, because it had that kind of complexity and depth to it. Greed, that word doesn't sit right with me. Greed was part
Ambition?
of it. Greed wasn't the overriding thing, I don't think. I think money was good and all that, but I think I think the word love is huge. The more I've been talking, the more I'm realizing it's like that there could never be enough love, if that makes sense. Meaning, then love comes in many different colors and flavors, And but I don't think there was ever going to be enough love, enough attention, enough admiration, enough respect, enough on and on and on for Truman Capote, And I think when he saw this opportunity with Perry Smith in this story, in this book, where he saw possibly the fact that more love and more admiration and more respect could be coming his way than he had ever experienced, I think that was just too much to bear. I think the idea of somebody, who had experienced being abandoned in such a harsh way in his youth, that he really had this character flaw, which we all have as humans. I think everyone has that need to, want to be admired and respect. But I think it was actually a character flaw when it came to him. I think he couldn't walk into a room and not demand everyone to stand up and take note, And I think this story and this book really triggered it to a whole nother level. So I would say it would be greed for actually people's attention and love and the money aspect. I think he'd give all the money in the world away if he knew everybody would hug him, and say, Truman. Somebody said the other day, it's like, as artists, we want to create that piece of art where everyone all of a sudden goes, all right, life can stop now. I've seen it. Everyone just disintegrates like in, some movie, you know what I mean? And life goes away because the art was so powerful, you know what I mean? It's like that Capote, I think, wishes that he had written a book that where people read, their eyes all of a sudden burned out of their sockets after they finished it, and... But that kind of thing, that's I think was the overriding thing.
But that's greed. That's greed too.
But the money thing I think is
not. I don't think you're talking about greed for
No.
money, but he wanted that praise so badly he was willing to do anything to get it.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's another layer and then the question will go to the gentleman. There's another layer you add to this, which is the artistic aspect to it all. There's something, whether he's looking for admiration, consideration, or love, whatever, there's also, he's onto something. He was was a journalist at some point. He had this journalistic approach. He had written novels, but he was onto something, the impact of which we still feel today, which is the non-fiction novel, using the skills of a novelist to get to a truth that too much information, even more so now that we're bombarded with television images. And that is something that must not have been very easy to weave into the script, was it?
into the movie or the script?
Both.
I mean, I'll be totally honest with you. Yes, it's a movie about a writer and a journalist, but I mean, that happens to be the shell that happens to be the shell of what's really going on here, and it's something that I'm very happy if we did it well enough or accurately enough that people can reflect on these kind of things. But that wasn't the thrust of at least my interest in doing this thing.
No, it was kind of an oblique answer to greed.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
a bleak answer to greed. Yeah, I just wanted to make a point about the money thing with Jorge.
All right.
That's all.
Question to the gentleman, then the lady behind her.
This many years later, over here on your right, after his death, it's sort of like people remember Elvis in a jumpsuit. They maybe only remember him as a media figure, a raconteur on The Tonight Show. And so it occurs to me that beyond inhabiting him physically, you sort of have to find who the real person was. I'm wondering what challenge there was, and if he was even discoverable in a way at this point.
At this juncture, well, we were. It was, it's very what Bennett was just saying. I mean, it was the story. The story was the thing. The story was why, the script that Danny had written was the thing. Was the lead in this film. Was. That's what attracted me to doing it. I wasn't interested in doing it if it was just going to be about trying to, portray Truman Capote and if I could be successful or not. That really wasn't of interest to me, and that would really have been a deadly thing. And pertaining to what you're saying, with that in mind, that's what gave us faith, I think, to move forward. Was that it wasn't about Elvis in the suit or Capote on, Dick Cavett or something. It really was about this thing that we're talking about, this 5.5 years of somebody, somebody seeing another, Truman Capote seeing Perry Smith and the inevitability of the tragedy unfolding. That dynamic is taking place in a classic tragic sense, that the character flaws would come into play and it would play itself out, and there's nothing that could stop it. And that is something that is classic. And if it's something that's classic, obviously reverberates in all times and is universal. And that was irresistible, and so with that in mind, it really had it grounded me, and I think everyone else, in this way that was a real human thing. So I could only look at playing Truman Capote in the most private and mundane of ways, you know what I mean? So therefore, it was very potent. The scenes that are in the party scenes or in the public arena, they're very potent because they stand out, because that's not what the movie's about. So when you see them, you're like, wow, that's the Capote in the public arena and everything. But the majority of the picture really is about this journey of this tragedy that starts to unfold, and it's unstoppable, and their character flaws come into play. So it's helpful.
The physical part.
Well, that's what do you mean?
I mean,
You want the source material for researching the physical.
no, not physically. Some people have said, well, if the way they look at a person physically who plays someone who's famous, and they say, oh, well, he's a little larger than Truman was, or whatever. I mean, did you look at pictures of him back then or stuff, or adopt his
The
look
nasals and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, well.
Yes, I did. There was a lot more footage of him after that time, so I really tried to focus on that time because of the fact that was the story we were telling. So there was the Maisels documentary that I watched a lot, and there were photos of him that Avedon took, and of other people took of him in Kansas over the period. And so,
Gary Clark's tapes.
Well, but in a way, I understand this gentleman's question. The character of Nell Harper Lee is physically unknown to us. We know the Harper Lee Mockingbird. That's what we know about her. We don't know much about her life. We don't know much about her biography. For all we know, she could be redhead. In a way, Catherine, did you feel not sort of freer to tackle that character than Philip, who was bound by the physicality of Truman Capote as we know it, whether it's after In Cold Blood or before?
Yeah, in a way I felt freer, but also I was very apprehensive because I only in retrospect, I'm recently apprehensive because I don't know if it's anything like her. And so I played a living person who I probably am nothing like in the movie. I just sort of culled it from whatever I read, my impressions of her, what she cared about and stuff, from her writings and pictures. She smoked and her hair was short and she didn't wear makeup.
Yeah, but you could have gone any way you wanted, actually.
That's true. That's why I was. Yes, it was freeing in a way, but now I'm caught with this thing that could be a complete lie and disservice to somebody. So, I don't know. It's all sort of conjecture in a movie, I think, in a way.
In a way, if I may extend the question to Clifton, I don't know if there's any footage of the real Perry Smith, photographs of Smith that you could have seen. Does anyone know his speech pattern?
The speech pattern was something we tried to find that would have helped me out a lot, but we couldn't get any kind of sound bites. But there was some footage of him, and there's plenty of pictures that Avedon, the pictures that I had seen anyway.
And there's a description of Perry's voice in Cold Blood that guided you.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Philip. Did you feel that you were kind of more constricted by what we know of Truman's voice, what we know of Truman's roundness, physical roundness, the way he moved.
Yeah, did I answer your question? I feel like maybe I didn't answer your question.
I wasn't sure that you had answered it completely, which is why
Well, I'm
asking
wondering what
the
it is.
differences.
Did I hear it wrong?
Sorry, in pictures I've seen, he's thinner than the image, the sort of doughy image we see of this raconteur on talk shows. He was, I would say, almost dough-like, really, like referring to the animal. Like he was thinner and kind of, I don't know. You look at the pictures, there was kind of a longing in him.
Are
But,
you implying that Mr. Hoffman is kind of slightly larger than Mr.
Yes.
Capote?
Yeah, just get at it, because I'm confused at what you're asking. You're kind of talking around it. What's the...
Did you lose weight to play him?
Yeah. Go at it, you know. It's all right.
Passive aggressively in Canada, and you'll have to get used to that.
Yes, I did. It was a daunting thing. When they came to my house to offer me the role, I weighed 240 pounds or something. I've said this before, but at the time my girlfriend was pregnant. We were basically getting huge together, and I was a long trip over time to get to a size that I could fit into these suits that he wore and these things that he did, and also have the dexterity that he had and nimbleness. And you're right, yeah, it was a lot of work, technically and literally with my body and my voice and all these things to get it right. But what I meant by what I said before is that, but I was able to get over the fear of just, this idea of mimicking him. That I could do all those things, but at the end of the day, I knew that it really was going to be this very human story. And that ultimately was a relief. You know what I mean? That I could do all these things, but ultimately I was going to have to come up with the guts of it. That's what I meant by what I was saying earlier. So with that question comes that other part of the answer.
Well, not only mimicking him, but also trying to avoid the sort of almost caricature of himself that he had become in the latter years. Madam.
Giovanna Grassi, Corriere della Sera Italy. Is a question to the director and the screenwriter. I saw so many biopic movies in Venice, not only George Clooney. So why, in your opinion, we are seeing so many intelligent and complex biopic? Perhaps because you can mix documentary and fiction in this type of movie, also writing the screenplay.
Well, I don't think this is a biopic. I think this is a story. The fact that it's true or based on a true story, I think, is just incidental. I think most of these biopics are some sort of celebration of these people's lives and work, and this is not that. This is a cautionary tale, or as Phil put it, it's a classic tragedy. It's incidental. I mean, this is a film about Truman Capote and the writing of In Cold Blood, but it's actually not really a film about Truman Capote and the writing of In Cold Blood. You know what I mean?
Also, the movie directed by George Clooney is not a biopic of a mural. My question was, in general, about also this type of movies that takes a part of a life. Just to know your opinion, because more and more we see this type of movies.
Is the question about the inclusion of a real life person into
so this
a
is
work
not
of
a
fiction?
biopic, but
Right.
after this movie, I wanted to buy again a book about Capote to study his life, not only this part. And more movies are like this. When you will see Good Night and Good Luck by George Clooney, it's just like your movie, a part of the life.
But ours is better.
I didn't. Your movie is fantastic. It's really fantastic. I was just interested in your quotes.
Right. I understand your question, but there's something academic about it that I can't possibly understand or explain. If it's true that there is more of a trend now, towards these, you call them biopics, but I think from all of our perspectives, when each of us encountered this story at different stages, what attracted us was not the fact that it's a biopic or based on a true person, or that maybe we're going to fit into some kind of a trend or there's a zeitgeist there or anything like that. I think what attracted all of us was actually the deeper themes of this film, which again are incident. The fact that it's based on a true story is totally incidental.
But yeah, I know. But I know what you mean. I actually I really want to see Clooney's film, because I don't think there's a similarity in stories, but it is just a section of the life, right? But I do think that's why I want to see. That's why I want to see that film so badly, because I do think that's kind of rare, actually, to see the biopic that takes just a slice of the life, just a part of the life in order to illuminate all of it. You know what I'm saying? And so actually I'm looking forward to seeing that, because I think there is a similarity on that level with Capote and Good Night and Good Luck, but I do think the majority of biopics that are still coming out really try to cover the whole thing. You know what I mean? And I think there's a difference that is very, very specific difference. But I don't think there's a lot of biopics coming out like Capote and Good Night and Good Luck, and the fact of taking just a section of the life. I still think that's a unique way to look at it. And maybe I'm wrong, because maybe you saw. Were there other films in Venice that did the biopic in a way of just taking a section of the life?
There are a lot in production. I was interested just because I think that this type of movie is documentary in a certain sense, and fiction, real story.
In a way,
So
are you
just for
doing
that,
an
I
In
have-
Cold Blood on Truman Capote doing In Cold Blood?
Meaning
Meaning applying to the situation of Capote doing, raising a fait divers into fiction without turning it into a simple novel. Are you not doing exactly the same process?
Are we not doing exactly?
Yeah.
I think there is a lot in common. Like you just said, and even stylistically, there's something in common.
Okay.
Is that too
Question-
elusive? I want to say
I
something
know.
about the George Clooney film. I haven't seen the George Clooney film, and I actually know very little bit about it. But ours is better. No, I don't mean that. I mean to say, I'm just making I don't want to offend anybody. I don't need to see it. It's
He knows.
my opinion.
The
stinks.
shadow knows. The lady.
Hi, sorry. You mentioned, you mentioned before, Philip, that this is a character where you really are mimicking, as opposed to a character that was just created from someone else's head. I'm just wondering, how do you prepare for that role where you really have to nail like every element, the hand movements, the voice, everything? I mean, were you sort of practicing that nasaled voice for months on end? Were you practicing in front of a mirror, or do you just walk in and it's all
Well, kind of what I was talking about before is the idea that the mimicking him wasn't the goal. Actually, I think that's what I was trying to say before. I'm not sure. Maybe I didn't say it clear enough. That it's really. I actually didn't want to mimic him. That really was. I really wanted to get the essence of him, because I knew that would be more powerful. And the essence is a kind of an elusive word in itself. But I had to practice all these things technically and try to get as small as I could, with my weight, whatever, all the things we were talking about before, and deal with the voice and the mannerisms. But ultimately, I can't state it enough that I had to fulfill the givens of this story, because if the story wasn't the potent aspect of the film, if people were just kind of watching Capote and it's neat seeing an actor play Capote, it wouldn't work. So I knew I had to fulfill that obligation, astutely enough you know, and then and really soulfully enough, so that everyone could, there would be a viaduct into the soul of the story. You know what I mean? So everyone could go, you know. So that first 5 minutes, you might be like, oh my God, Truman Capote, look at that, Philip, or whatever. But hopefully within 5 or 10 minutes, you're sucked right into that story, and you're watching the character of Truman Capote play it out, you know. And so yes, I had to do all those things. What I did alone in the room for those 4 or 5 months preparing is for me to think about for the rest of my life. But yeah, I had to do all those things. But what helped that was like not worrying so much about mimicking him, but actually trying to just get the essence of that guy, the energy and everything.
Just ask a follow-up then. For if you getting into that soul of the character, then is that more challenging with someone who's, you know, a real life figure, or, I mean, how did that take you a really long time, like more than other roles that you've done in the past, or?
Yeah, it took me. There's a couple roles where I've had to work a pretty long time to get ready for it. This one was longer than those and harder. Yeah.
To go back to the actual script and the text and what is being said by the various characters, I understand you guys had access to the letters that Perry Smith sent to Capote. How much of that has been used in the script? How much has been eliminated from the script? And the same could be applied to everything that you put in Harper Lee's mouth. Is there a specific account of, or is it completely invented? The conversation that they might have had, I mean, Harper and True.
In terms of the letters, they're quoted pretty extensively in Clark's biography, at least the really salient points of them. Something that was interesting to me to read about those letters, and it's a shame because it's only the letters that Hickok and Smith wrote to Capote. The ones that Capote wrote to them were incinerated by the prison after they were hung, and it's a pity because I would love to have seen those. What you get a sense, more than specific quotes from them, above and beyond what's in the biography, you get just a sense of their lives, and also a real sense that he was a lifeline for them, that he was their sole connection to the outside world. These were extremely, extremely lonely people, particularly Perry, and that was something that I found impactful from reading them. In terms of Harper Lee and Truman, I mean, I sort of echo what Catherine said. I have enormous admiration for Harper Lee, and I hope I've done her some justice. And I think that she comes, you know, certainly in Catherine's incarnation of her, comes across as strong and moral and funny and probably more beautiful than is true in life. But I hope that comes off as truthful, and that relationship seems to have been dealt with respect, because you're right, there's a paucity of information about her.
There are some letters that we still have that Capote wrote to Perry that have been published more recently in Gary Clark's edition
A few,
of Too
right?
Brief a Treat.
Though he said, I mean, he wrote him like twice a week. I mean,
Yeah.
there must be hundreds
Yeah.
of them that got lost.
Before the gentleman takes the floor, you said letters that both Hickok and Smith wrote?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Because practically in the film, Hickok sort of stays away from True.
Yeah.
They don't talk at all. They just...
I feel like we keep on talking about a very similar, I think we're dancing around a similar issue here, and that is, you know, whether it's Phil's performance and how accurate that is in the story and doing the biopic and making things, there's a central story. There's an essence there's an essence to this actual story. And I think what separates this from a biopic is that a decision was made of what is this movie really about? And once that's decided, what to include and what to exclude, I think based on what this is really about, it governs what to include and what to exclude. And so of course, there's more of a relationship between Capote and Hickok, and Capote and Jack Dunphy and many other characters and things like that. But when we boil it down to the essence of what we're really going after, we sort of use the reality to apply to. Yeah.
Sir?
Yeah, we talked a lot about what Truman's motives might have been, but I'm wondering if Cliff could address what he thinks maybe Perry's motives were in this relationship, and maybe what you felt the key to the character was and how you arrived at it.
How I arrived at it. I really just wanted to play an honesty in Perry. I think he was really lonely and he just wanted to be loved. In short.
Was that written in the script, or did you feel that it was the self-discovery that you made?
I think it's there on the page. Yeah, a little exploration. It was there.
Well, didn't he think that someone of the stature of Truman Capote could be absolutely helpful? I mean, that's sort of spelled out.
Don't you think that you possibly what I was writing could have
I mean,
helped you
he
maybe
was
not
not Shirley
die?
Temple,
Well,
Jennifer
yeah,
Jones.
at the end of the day, initially, I think just anybody to actually talk or take an interest in Perry was just huge for him. And the fact that he was, it happened to be Truman Capote, yeah, ultimately in the end, I had a stay of execution and I got to live longer and a bunch of great things came out of it. But in the immediate sense, I think just anybody taking any kind of vested interest in him was just huge. Actually caring about who he is and concerned about what he thinks and what's in his heart and his head, and also what happened in that house that night. So.
I'd like to go back to Clifton, to your approach to Perry. To what extent did you feel that you had a free hand in playing out his physical dance, if I may put it? I mean, his physical posture, the way he would sit. Is this something that comes completely out of your mind, just because that's the way, with the director, of course?
Bennett played a big part in that as well. I mean, between the book and just exploring, I just thought it was I thought that's just the way he was. I think we had enough time to really rehearse and explore and talk it out and get to these places. It just made sense.
Okay. Any question in the audience? Okay. Yes, go ahead, sir. Just wait until you get the mic. Thank you.
I think maybe we're dancing around Truman Capote and Perry Smith, are we not? I know in 1997 or 1998, the warden told George Plimpton that he thought that Truman Capote and Perry Smith had a homosexual relationship. Capote was obviously gay. He said Perry was gay. We have them hugging in the film, but we have no direct intimation of anything more intimate than that. And I'm sorry, my question is, what was your take on their relationship based on the real life relationship?
Can I take that?
Go ahead.
You want to take that?
No, go ahead.
Was it the warden or was it Harold Nye that said that? I think it was Harold Nye that said that, who was a homophobic detective for the Kansas Bureau of Investigation. And if it was Dunst and not Nye, I apologize and I don't mean an offense, but I think it was Nye. There is exactly, I think, one source to that rumor, and I believe it is him. This is a person who hated Truman Capote, and this is a person who was very irked by the assistance that Capote was giving these guys. He helped them out, and he helped them actually with legal, and to get a stay. I think the world's living authority on Truman Capote is Gary Clark, who wrote the book from which served as the source material for this film. This book is a very no-holds-barred, warts and all, honest look at Truman Capote, and kind and very unkind at the same time. And he is outraged at that accusation, and he thinks it's absurd and ridiculous. And I'd like to give you his phone number, and he can address it specifically. But just as a character decision for Capote to go there, a reality of like in 1960, death row, Leavenworth, and also risking the thing that was really the most important, the most important thing in Truman Capote's life, that everything he had ever hoped for, risking that for a blowjob is ridiculous. It didn't happen. And it's amazing how one guy's kind of angry accusation is like exists 45 years later.
There's one moment at the end of the film which...
That sounded angry. I'm not angry. I'm just,
No.
It's just, I want to stamp that out.
There's one moment at the end of the movie that I was almost physically shocked by, and that's when Perry Smith is hanged. You have a shot of Truman reacting to it, and correct me if I'm wrong. Throughout the film, Mr. Hoffman, your eyes are kind of always slightly semi-closed. And this is the first time I felt that all of a sudden both eyes were wide open in shock, almost as if he suddenly realized what he'd done. Am I mistaken?
I don't know. Are you mistaken? I don't know. You're wrong.
All right.
No, I'm just. I know what you mean. That you're right. But I think seeing him hung is shocking. But I think it's something that's shocking in a way where you're almost dumbstruck. I don't think in that moment he really knows what exactly is going through him. I think the tragedy has played itself out in the scene prior to that. When he says goodbye, tries to say goodbye to them. And that is, to me, where you see all the events of the film come crashing, down upon him, and it's incredibly bright, blaring light of self-awareness that is crushes him, So when he actually sees the event unfold, I think he's in a place that is could be any number of things. I think it's on one of those parts in a movie where I think you could project pretty much whatever you want onto him, so whatever you felt is accurate, because I think you really see what unfolded in the scene prior. But it is a shocking image,
But I think you're getting after some kind of metaphor that this was his awakening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in some ways it's very true. I think that's kind of what Phil's saying too.
What I'm saying is I don't think the awakening happens when he's hung, is my point. I don't think I think the awakening happens in the scene prior. It's already happened. So what's happening when he's actually hung is something that's anybody's guess. I think that when you see him break down in that moment of self-awareness mixed with grief, mixed with the 10,000 other things that he's done in the past 5.5 years that he can't bear to actually look at up close in front of these two, that's when he's awake. That's his awakening. To me, that's how I saw that.
I'm afraid our time is up. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being here.